How we doing on this fine Wednesday? Evan Tiki on the Fan. There is a ton to get to. We're a day closer to the start of the NFL season. The Jets are facing something they have never faced in their history. Daniel Jones is walking around like a new man. Week 1 is more important than you could imagine. And Met fans are giddy, rightfully so. But let's start with the obvious. Let's all admit we have a problem, and then we could address it. The New York Yankees have a ninth-inning problem. It has been a problem all season long, to varying degrees. Some of us, some of you have screamed about it all year long. But last night, deep in the heart of Texas, they hit rock bottom. The Yankees suffered their worst loss of the season, and Clay Holmes became the biggest problem that he's been all year long. So let's just start there. We accept, Teak, that Clay Holmes is a problem,
yes,
correct?
Of course he's been. In fact, when we had the Subway Series and Aaron Boone was on, we asked him about Clay Holmes. He said, it'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
It'll be all right.
It'll be all right.
We have confidence in him. I think last night was the last straw.
Well, okay, so let's go to last night, and then we will work towards the future and what the Yankees should do about it. I made the case to you a couple of weeks ago that I wouldn't bury Clay Holmes, but I would treat him differently. And I want to use last night as a specific example. So the Yankees lost last night for a myriad of reasons. It wasn't simply Clay Holmes. DJ LeMahieu literally lost a ground ball in the lights. That happened. The offense did nothing against Andrew Heaney, who we all know stinks, okay? Gleyber Torres couldn't make the play on a play that he probably should make and turn into a double play. But in the ninth inning, and I'm going to equate this to your wife or your husband, sometimes you get home after a long day of work and you can just tell she's in a mood. And what do?
All been there.
We've all been there.
All been there.
That's why I feel this analogy really, really works. So I don't know about you, Teak. If I see my wife is in one of those moods, I avoid her at all costs.
I was going to say, there's a couple of things you could do. One is you go lovey-dovey on her.
You could do that.
And try to butter her up. Hey, do you need anything? What can I help with? I'm the same as you. I go in my office, shut the door.
Bingo. And I'm glad you said that because the lovey-dovey thing is not going to work with this analogy. So you avoid her. You're like, you know what? Nothing good is going to come out of this.
When she's ready to talk, she's ready to be okay, I'll be right where you know where I am.
100%. I'm going to avoid her because if I have a conversation, no matter what it's about, it's going to go badly.
Right.
I believe Clay Holmes is very similar to your husband or wife that you could tell is in a bad mood. When Clay Holmes can't throw strikes and Clay Holmes is bouncing his sinker, he's screwed and subsequently we're screwed. So here's what I would have done differently last night. If you're going to continue, Aaron Boone, to play this game of, Clay Holmes is my best option, gee golly, when he gets Travis Jankowski to ground out to Oswaldo Cabrera, that's great. No complaints. When he gives up a base hit to Carson Kelly on a ground ball up the middle, okay, antenna's up a little bit. I'm not panicking. When Tavera steals second, and then 2 pitches later, Josh Smith. By the way, you know who Josh Smith is?
No.
You traded his ass for Joey Gallo. True story. When you walk Josh Smith, and now they're a 2 on and 1 out, and the tying run is in scoring position, and the winning run is at first base, and now you're facing the heart of the Texas batting order, abandon ship. You get out there and you go to Luke Weaver. Now, I know Luke Weaver is not perfect. I know Luke Weaver is not a guarantee. But here's what I've learned. When you know Clay Holmes doesn't have it, when you see Clay Holmes is not throwing strikes, when you see Clay Holmes is laboring, abandon ship. Try something different. So before we get to what they should do tonight or what they should do Friday or what they should do in the ALDS or the Wild Card Series, I go back to last night, and I've said this to you before. He is no longer the guaranteed ninth inning guy. I'm sorry, you've lost that. Do you get to pitch the ninth inning? Sure. But you don't get to finish it. When there were 2 on and 1 out, I'm sorry. I got to make a move. I got to try something. I can't sink with the same sinking ship that I've been sinking with all year long. So before we get to the future, in terms of last night, am I crazy?
No, you're not. And I think, unfortunately for the Yankee fan, you've known this for a long time. You've felt this for a long time. And it's gotten to the point where it almost feels like you know it, but the skip doesn't know it. It's like Aaron Boone ignores what's obviously in front of him. Now, maybe he is right. maybe Clay Holmes is the best option that they have to close games. And in a traditional form, when your ninth inning closer type guy comes in, you leave him in. You let him get himself out of those situations. But in our minds, why we hate this is because too many times we've seen him do this exact same thing. Get in a little bit of trouble. In the manager's mind, he's saying he'll figure it out. In our mind, we're saying he's screwing this up. You know he's screwing this up. And it's been that way now 11 times. Now, they're not all the same, but 11 situations. I know the last 2 have been this way, where he gets in a little bit of a trouble, and then he doesn't find a way to figure it out, right? And so when that is happening consistently, you have to do something else. You have to. And Aaron Boone is unwilling to.
No, anything else. Like the obvious that I think most people want to scream and yell about today, and trust me, we'll get to it, is just simply replacing him and saying he's not the ninth inning guy.
But who is the ninth? My only issue with that is who are you replacing him with?
There's no obvious answer, but there are options who have not failed over and over again the way Clay Holmes has now failed. You've got 2 options returning this weekend into the rotation. You've got Clark Schmidt, who's pitched out of the bullpen before. You have Luis Gil. This would be new for him. You have those 2 You have Nestor Cortez. No one's saying we would love that, but it's an option. And then you've got the guys that are already there. You've got Tommy Kahnle, who pitched earlier in this game and got screwed because DJ LeMahieu, for some reason, was still out there playing first base. You've got Luke Weaver. You've got the combo. I don't like to say bullpen by committee because it's got such like a negative connotation to it, but I got news for everybody.
When you don't have a great one, you kind of have to do it by committee.
Well, and also, they don't have anyone good enough to just be the guy. So sometimes, you do have to play the matchups. And on a night like last night, like, I'm not screaming that Clay Holmes shouldn't have started the 9th inning. I'm screaming he shouldn't have finished the 9th inning. What I'm telling you is, in last night's case, when he puts a guy on base because he can't throw his freaking sinker for a strike, spoiler alert, he's going to get hammered.
Yeah.
He's going to hang one eventually like Wyatt Langford did. And by the way, if you're saying, it's too quick after he walks Josh Smith, okay, how about when he walks Marcus Semien? How about when the bases are loaded? And if your answer is, well, do you think Luke Weaver's getting a double play? All I know is that's a better option than sinking with Clay Holmes, who just walked back-to-back guys.
Well, it's funny. You say, do you think Luke Weaver's getting a double play? No, but I know Clay Holmes is not.
Exactly. It's not that option is perfect. It's that option is better.
Yeah.
It's that when you see something is going bad, that's the thing that drove me nuts last night. Yes, who should replace him? We're going to spend plenty of time on it. Who should be the guy? I get all that. Last night, the Yankees suffered their worst loss of the season. I don't even think it's very close. They're in a pennant race for the American League East. I believe winning the division is damn important.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah,
and they dropped out of first place last night.
The Orioles won, so the Orioles are now half a game above the Yankees.
That's right. And they lost the game for a myriad of reasons. Like I mentioned, Gleyber Torres, DJ LeMahieu, all that, not being able to hit Andrew Haney. But when you see the train is coming at you, we all see the train is coming at us. We all see our wife is in a horrible mood. When she's in a horrible mood, do you go to her face and say, hey, how come you didn't do the laundry today? Hey, how come you didn't pick that up today? Do you go to your husband and say, you didn't make enough money today? You didn't clean after yourself today? Like last night, me and my wife had a little bit of a quarrel. And once I realized it, I said, I'm out, and I'm wrong. Aaron Boone should have realized last night, wow, Clay Holmes can't throw his sinker for a strike. Oh, Jay, what should I do? Let me leave him in to give up a grand slam to Wyatt Langford. That's stupid. And that's got to change.
Yeah, and the challenge in our minds is that Aaron Boone is now saying it's still in front of us.
Well, it is.
It's still, we're only a half a game back. We're okay. There's still lots of baseball to play. And he's not wrong. The problem with what Aaron Boone says is that he's not wrong. But the way that he says it makes you feel like he doesn't care. That he doesn't care that Clay Holmes just blew in a very important game that now knocks them out of first place. Not that they're going to stay out of first place, because they're likely to find their way, climb their way back in. Baltimore can't put away the Yankees, just like the Yankees can't put away Baltimore. But it is what it is. There's still lots of baseball to be played, in a sense, 23 games or so. Even if they don't win the division, they're going to be in the playoffs. So it just feels like it's okay. but okay shouldn't be good enough for this team that's supposed to be so much better. And I think that's where we get frustrated, is that mediocrity is not okay in any form if you expect to be a championship-level team.
The problem, Tiki, is the Orioles are right there in front of us, and they should be 4 or 5 games behind us.
True.
And frankly, what this season is now boiling down to, it's Clay Holmes, it's DJ LeMahieu, it's all of these problems, Alex Verdugo, it's loyalty. I'm convinced it's loyalty. Aaron Boone loves his core guys, his veteran guys, and it is now at the detriment of losing baseball games. Yesterday shouldn't have been the realization that Clay Holmes can't finish a game. We have had too much evidence of that all season long. It doesn't mean that he can't start closing games and continue with him as a closer, but the leash needs to be shorter. You put him in there, short leash, get him out of the game.
What I don't understand, and you're going to use the word loyalty, and it's an interesting word to use. Let's bring up the Baltimore Orioles. The Baltimore Orioles employ a guy who may end up in the Hall of Fame. I don't believe he is, but Gary Cohn said it endless times 2 weeks ago. Craig Kimbrell may go to the Hall of Fame, not as a visitor, but as an actual Hall of Fame closer. He was the closer for the Baltimore Orioles, and he was actually having a pretty good season. Decent season. Good year. Look at his numbers. He had like a 2.1 ERA in the middle of July. And then Craig Kimbrell started to struggle. He started to not pitch well. Those good numbers turned into ugly numbers. And very quickly, Brandon Hyde, the young manager of the Baltimore Orioles, made a business decision. He said to that 9-time All-Star, to that potential future Hall of Famer, you're not it anymore. And if you can say that to Craig Kimbrell, you damn sure can say that to Clay Holmes.
Exactly the point. And we now have 2 pieces of evidence that other teams around the Yankees contending for a World Series have no problem not being loyal like that. Hyde with the Orioles, and when the Astros DFA'd Jose Abreu. These teams are willing to make cutthroat decisions that the Yankees are relying on loyalty. And to that point, that Kimbrell is not Clay Holmes. What was Clay Holmes before we figured out this closing role here with the Yankees? He was a journeyman reliever we hit on, got lucky on. How is he any different, Evan, and I'll throw another name at you, than Jake Cousins with a better ERA right now? Why does Clay Holmes deserve any more of those important outs that guys like that?
No,
he was
doesn't.
different then.
He gets it because of loyalty.
Exactly.
You're right about that.
It's killing the team.
Well, it's also, it's Boone being a player's coach. It's Boone being, I got your back. Because he thinks that I got your back is going to come back to I don't know, be something that these guys rally around. My skip's got my back. My manager's always behind me. I know I went through some tough times, but he's got my back, and that's how I persevered. But that only works if you're good enough to persevere.
Well, yeah.
And right now, Clay Holmes is not good enough to persevere through some of these things. And we all know it. I think his teammates have to know this as well. And they'll all say the right things because they're his teammates. But Aaron Boone doesn't need to.
No.
Aaron Boone's got to do what's right for winning. The bottom line is win or lose. And if you are not helping your team do that, then you have to be replaced in some capacity.
No question.
Or at least amended how you're used.
No question. No one is going to argue that Tommy Kahnle or Luke Weaver or Jake Cousins or Tim Hill is a magic potion. There is no magic potion. You know what it is? You've got to play the matchups. You've got to keep guys in when they're pitching well. You've got to ride the hot hand. And I hate to use this because this isn't a strategy. You got to hope that someone starts to clear themselves and prove they're the guy for the biggest outs. Like, ask a Met fan right now. And I think this is a good example because I've always said this about relievers, and now the Mets are fully experiencing it. If you ask a Met fan right now, outside of Edwin Diaz, who's your closer, which reliever do you trust the most? The answer today is probably Phil Maton. That's the answer.
Interesting.
Now, it's true he's pitched well, but where did that come from? Phil Maton had an average to mediocre year. The Mets acquired him. He's pitched really well. That's relievers. That's who Jake Cousins potentially is. That's who Luke Weaver essentially is. And that's who Clay Holmes was, to Sean's point, 2 years ago when they brought him in from Pittsburgh, 3 years ago now. And so you've got to ride the hot hand. There's no easy answer. There's no Mariano Rivera. There's no Edwin Diaz. There's not even an Aroldis Chapman from a few years ago. It's literally giving other people the opportunity to get the biggest outs. And yeah, you've got a couple of returning starters that need to be considered. We need to have conversations about Clark Schmidt and Luis Hill.
Well, we'll have those conversations for sure. Will Aaron Boone have those conversations?
He has
Will
to.
Brian Cashman be having those conversations internally at Yankee Stadium? If they're not, then they're not serious about winning.
Well, here's why they have to have the conversations now. The New York Yankees are making the playoffs. Spoiler alert. They're going to be in the postseason. Maybe the wild card series, but they're going to be in the postseason. Once you're in the postseason, especially for the first 2 rounds, you need 3 starting pitchers. 3. That's it. That's the number. 3, especially because of the off days. So we could argue who those 3 should be. In fact, it doesn't even matter. Garrett Cullen named 2 other guys. I don't even care who they are. Want to say Marcus Stroman and Carlos Rodon? You want to go with that?
Yeah.
Is that fine?
That's fine.
Okay. You now have 3 other starting pitchers who don't have a job for the postseason. They're available now. They're not starting because you've already selected those other guys. Well, they're going to pitch out of the bullpen. Not just going to waste them.
Yeah.
Why not find out right now in September, better time than any, if they can get those outs in the 8th and 9th inning? Why not? Clark Schmidt, and I hate to bring up bad memories, was given that opportunity. He actually failed back in 2022. I don't know if anyone remembers. He was asked to protect the lead against the Cleveland Guardians in Game 3 of the American League Divisional Series, and he blew the game. Oscar Gonzalez got the game-winning hit. I think it was the moment we all thought, wow, the Yankees are going to lose to Cleveland. The Yankees came back, won Game 4. They won Game 5 at the stadium. Bada boom, bada bang. They're in the ALCS. But Clark Schmidt's done it.
Yeah.
He's had experience. How about round 2? Luis Gil. That's a very popular name. It's a name we talked about all the way back in March and April as a factor. Let's see. And throw more arms into this mix because this with Clay Holmes ain't working.
Yeah.
And he should no longer be guaranteed the 9th inning, not only guaranteed to start the 9th inning, but as we saw last night, guaranteed to finish the 9th inning. He doesn't earn that anymore. Someone else needs the opportunity to clean up a mess that he created by giving up a base hit and back-to-back walks. And that's got to change, and that's got to change right now.
It's hard to argue that. And the only one that is or will not comment on it is Aaron Boone. Aaron Boone is maybe unwittingly putting pressure on himself regarding his job security. Because when you lose games like this, and it's your decision, not Cashman's decision, not your pitching coach, it's your decision, that you're putting yourself in harm's way for your job. That's what it feels like. Now, again, they're making the postseason, but if this is his MO and he's not going to even experiment with it for the rest of the regular season so that when you get to the postseason, you at least have a clue of what else you could do besides Clay Holmes, then you're putting yourself in position to fail. And then ultimately people are going to call for your job.
Well, we'll get plenty of calls today. Maybe it's for Aaron Boone's job. Maybe it's an idea on what the hell they should do now.